Hi everyone, this is Elizabeth Simkins, and this is Control Methods and Uses. So why use control systems? When a business is created, there must be decisions made on how to control the collection of individuals that will be working towards the common output. There are different mechanisms throughout a company that assist in coping with this problem. Control mechanisms, their purpose, and their function. The use of control mechanisms in the process of management monitors employees' activities. It helps to determine if the organization and those employees are moving in the right direction to meet the goals of the company. Control mechanisms serve to assist managers and supervisors within the organization in maintaining and developing the pattern of behavior needed to meet the goals of the company. The broad application of control mechanisms are usually in the areas of operational control, strategic planning, and finance. William Alchey describes these controls as markets, bureaucracy, and clans. He tells us that the market refers to the control problems that come with determining the individual employee's contribution to the common goals of the organization. Bureaucracy is a mixture of evaluation and social acceptance of the objectives of the company. And the clans look at the completed socialization and culture between all individuals and how it helps or undermines meeting the goals within the organization. So let's look at what he calls market control. Market control is the purchasing and pricing of parts or services to put together competitive bids at a fair price. It is easy to control by supervisors by checking the concrete criteria set forth by the organization. The supervisor observes the steps made and assesses the skill and effort of the employee to do the job. This is very efficient in this area. The goal of prices of the control are set and do not cause any room for incongruity within the mechanism. When positive outcomes are made, it is very easy to reward everyone involved because you know exactly what they did towards that goal. It is a very straightforward mechanism, but it takes into consideration that the market is straightforward as well. We all know that in actual business, that is not the case. So, parts and services are all unique, and they come with unique ways of assessing a fair price. The purchasing agents are not always on the same level. They are giving contracts and controlled through evaluation of bureaucratic measures. So they have to go exactly what they're told. This is where the control of bureaucracy is overlapped to assist in the market control. So the bureaucratic mechanism. This control mechanism includes a supervisor's close evaluation and observance of the employee's performance as set forth by a formal set of rules. The necessary tools for this mechanism are the procedures, the policy, and the rules that are first set forth by the company. Rules themselves are standards which a comparison has yet to be made. It takes the actual performance of an employee for a supervisor to have something to compare the rules to determine if an employee is following the rules satisfactorily. So basically you have these set of rules and you can't do anything in comparison until the employee does its job, and then you can look to see if the employee is doing its job according to what the company says it should. The bureaucracy of an organization is constantly shifting and changing and must always be closely scrutinized. We all know that businesses change, they ebb and flow, and so does the outside market. There is no perfect frictionless circumstances. However, despite its ever-changing climate, this form of control mechanism is used by almost every organization. What Auchi considers the clan mechanism. This is the informal social structure between individuals that assist in achieving the goals of the organization. You could call it culture. Supervisors can rely on bureaucratic mechanisms to evaluate a team's performance in achieving the work objectives at the highest commitment. But sometimes it comes down to just watching the team. You don't need to watch each individual because you know as a team they're going to work together. And when a manager can see that the team is trying to do the right thing, it does not require the same close evaluation that the bureaucratic mechanism offers. They can pretty much just watch the team and their commitment towards the outcome. It is based on a social understanding between all individuals involved that there are certain values, cooperations, and constructs that must be in place to get the job done. So, some modern types of control systems. In this slide, we'll be looking at the personal observation control, the statistical reports control, a break-even analysis control, and a budgetary control, which will include expense, revenue, cash, capital, and zero-based budget. We'll also be looking at the balanced scorecard, the open book management, and the total quality management. Let's start with the balanced scorecard. What is it? Well, the balanced scorecard was originally developed by Dr. Robert Kaplan of Harvard University and Dr. David Norman. It's a framework that measures the organizational performance using a balanced set of performance measures, and that's the key in this particular control mechanism, is balance between all measures of the corporation. So traditionally, companies used only short-term financial performance as a measure of success, but the balanced scorecard added additional non-financial strategic measures to the mix in order to better focus on long-term success. So everything is about balance. The system has evolved over the years and is now considered a fully integrated strategic management system. So the balanced scorecard does a couple of things. It helps to communicate what is trying to be accomplished. It aligns the day-to-day work that everyone is doing with strategy so it can be measured. Prioritizes projects, products, and services. Measures and monitors progress towards strategic targets. It looks at elements of the corporation, and it looks at the mission of the corporation. It looks at the vision, the core values, the strategic focus, objectives, measures, and initiatives. So there are 4 perspectives that need to be looked at in this scorecard method, and with each you have to develop objectives, measures, targets, and initiatives. And these areas are the financial, which include the financial performance and the resources allocated, the customer and the stakeholder, so you're looking at customer value, satisfaction, and retention, the internal processes, which is efficiency and quality, and the organizational capacity, which looks at the human capital, the infrastructure, the technology the corporation has, and the basic culture that you'll find in this corporation. So the way to do this is you have to come up with strategic objectives. These are the activities that need continuous improvement. They assist in breaking down the vision and the mission statement into actionable steps that you can actually measure that need to be carried out to keep the goals of the company. They may include things such as increased revenue in certain areas, or improve customer relations with certain products, or maybe the company as a whole, and to improve the efficiency and productivity of all areas. So after you come up with the objectives, you're going to strategically map how to do this. This is used to visualize what objectives need to be met. So now that you've set the objectives, you're going to visualize on how they need to be met and how the company will communicate these objectives to the employees. It communicates how value is created and a logical pattern between objectives. Improving objectives, and therefore performance, assists the organization into meeting its financial goals and works into the budgetary system. So now that we have a clear-cut objective and we have a clear-cut way of looking at the objectives and how we're going to meet them, we need to come up with the key performance indicators that's going to tell us whether we have met our goals. Each objective requires performance indicators to see if the goals are being met. It determines what is being done and the gap that needs to be bridged in order to complete the objectives. This assists the organization to determine the effectiveness of operational and financial goals. It provides an objective way of looking at each strategy, gives a way to determine the degree of performance over a period of time, and assists to focus employees to accomplish the goals that the corporation wants met. Those are our key performance indicators. Now, after coming up with those, we're going to put it into a cascading organization. This is used to show consistency throughout all levels of the organization to see if the right objectives are being set and are measured in ways that will help the goals to be met. Levels should include business units, finance, such as finance, administrative, HR, etc., and work down to the teams and then the individuals. So we want to just make sure that everything is consistent and that the organization, you can see that the organization is measuring it correctly. Creates a visual for everyone to see and understand. So that's always a good thing. Okay, so that was the scorecard. So let's look at open book management. What is open book management? This type of control system involves sharing all financial and productivity documentation throughout the organization with each employee. So you're basically going to show all of your employees everything about the corporation. It's used to create a sense of responsibility and ownership in completing objectives and goals. Each individual throughout the organization is aware of their department's value and contributions to performance, and overall what their individual contribution is. They are also aware of how everyone else is contributing to the bottom line. So they know what they're doing, they know what everybody else is doing, and they know financially what's going on throughout the company. So if this is done properly, this could give each individual employee a say and a stake in how the business is operated, because they'll want the business to do well in order for themselves to do well as well. Educating all employees on how their individual jobs as well as the department and then the business on a whole contributes to the bottom line, gives the employee a sense of responsibility, and gets the job done as efficiently and skillfully as possible. So basically, this responsibility also translates to the fiscal and budgetary realms. In this method, all of the employees are taught how to look at the financial reports and the profit and loss statements. If the individual company, if they know that the company is losing money on operations, then they're more likely to say, hey, why don't we do this? Give some contribution in order to make things more efficient so that it doesn't have a loss. It actually works better and it's more efficient. So basically the goal of the open book management is to let everyone have a voice and a stake in how the company is run. If they're doing well, the company's doing well. The next control system is the total quality management. TQM is an approach to business that seeks to improve quality in all levels of business. The goal is to have quality and performance that will meet or exceed customer expectations. So we're going to be looking at quality a lot during this control mechanism. And we're looking at the overall measures of quality in design, development, control and maintenance, improvement, and assurance. And it looks at these levels across the whole business and all of the employees. So they have quality inspectors, this control mechanism, which were introduced to make sure that poor performance issues were addressed at all levels and poor quality was at a minimum. This method of control provided a statistical measurement of quality based on sampling. So it didn't go in and look at each individual product, but it took a sample of the product and looked at that. And they were able to see if it met certain standards. It looks at the variation in the process to produce an end product and tries to minimize the variations. Basically, it wants to create a higher quality product for customers. So the principles of TQM. The top management should act as the main driver and create an environment that's going to be successful. So the top management needs to make sure that the employees have all of the skills, all of the training, and all of the machinery or tools that they will need in order to succeed. Training the employees in the concept and methods of quality control. So you want them to be able to recognize the methods of quality control and know whether it's being met or not, and whether they're having a high quality product. All improvements in quality control should enhance the customer satisfaction. So everything you look at within the quality control should be, in the end, to enhance customer satisfaction, because that's what you're looking to do with this control method. All quality decisions should be made based on statistical measurements. The use of proper methods and tools ensures non-conformance incidents are identified and consistently dealt with throughout the company. So if you look at something and you measure it and it's not where it should be, then that kind of tells the managers and the control people that they need to look at this and it needs to be dealt with. The company should always look towards improving methods and tools to work toward improving manufacturing and quality procedures. The culture of cooperation and collaboration in improving quality should be developed. You want everyone to work towards a common goal and for there to be no friction in meeting those goals. Employees should be encouraged to voice opinions and be proactive in increasing efficiency and quality assurance. They should also be encouraged to identify and address any quality-related problems. Okay, so the financial aspect of TQM is concerned with making sure the organization's activities are set to improve short-term and long-term goals. It looks at income and return on investment. So basically, if it's buying machinery to make the process more efficient and effective, they want to make sure that they get the return on investment that they put into it. Having this financial component makes this type of control management more cost-effective to put in place than to leave out of the organization. So if you're looking at putting in TQM into the corporation, there's a lot of costs associated with it, but there's even more costs if you leave it out. Okay, so the costs associated with putting TQM into an organization. You have product requirements, setting the specifications on materials, processes, and finished products or services. Quality planning, the creation of the plans for implementing the quality control. So that's looking at the operational, the productive, and the inspections that need to happen. Quality assurance, creating and maintaining the system for quality control. A lot has to be put into place for this to work, and those are all costs associated with putting this into the organization. And then the training of the staff in development, preparation, and maintaining the process. So that's also a cost that is associated with putting TQM into place. You have to train all your Okay, so the cost of failure to not put this kind of quality assurance mechanism in place. This can include servicing of return products that do not meet the customer specifications or satisfaction, either in-house or at a customer site. It could also be replacing items or services that are re-performed under warranty. So basically, if the client doesn't want it and it's under warranty, then you have to either give them a new one or re-perform the service that's connected. Dealing with customer complaints as a workload and having customers spread their dissatisfaction. You'll need staff on a day-to-day basis to deal with the complaints of the customers, so that's a cost in payroll. And having customers spread their dissatisfaction, you don't want the customers to put it out there that you have an inferior product, because then that precludes you from possible customers. Transportation and investigation on handling returned items. This is another cost that's put forth with the failure to put a quality control mechanism in place. Now we're going to look at other modern types of control. The first one being personal observation. This is when the supervisor or manager gets out and observes the employees personally. This puts pressure on the employees to do their best because they're being observed. However, it does take up a lot of time and may not be the best control mechanism. Statistical reports. It provides measurable performance standard goals by using statistical analysis. It also allows for comparison between fiscal years so that you can make sure you're meeting your goal from year to year. Break-even analysis. Statistical information allows for a break-even analysis to assist managers in estimating the profits at different levels of the organization. Okay, so now we're going to look at budgetary control. Budgetary control is the process of setting targets for processes such as expenditures, monitoring results, and comparing them to the budget to see if an organization is financially on track. A budget can be made for the company as a whole, or also it can be done as each individual department. The types of budgets that we're going to look at are expense budgets, revenue budgets, cash budgets, capital budgets, and zero-based budgets. Okay, we're going to look at expense budgets. I'm sure everyone is familiar with spending money and looking at what you actually need to spend versus what you actually spent. So an expense budget includes the anticipated expenditures and the actual expenditures. It focuses on the business as a whole, or it can actually focus on individual departments or products or services. It allows for change to be made when actual expenses exceed budgetary expenses. It can show exemplary efficiency in a department, or it can indicate a problem within the department or a process. In this way, it prompts a manager to look into why there is a discrepancy. So now we'll look at the revenue budget. What is the profits that are being made by the corporation? The revenue budget is a forecasted list of actual revenue for the organization. A revenue below the forecasted amount prompts an investigation by managers into why the numbers are low. This could be a need to look at a certain process, to make them more efficient. A revenue above the forecasted numbers would also prompt an investigation to see if the numbers were inflated or if there were a problem. Managers can use revenue budgets to form an action plan if there are any discrepancies. Cash budget. So the cash budgets look at the receipts and the expenditures on a daily and weekly basis to make sure the company has enough cash on hand to meet its obligations. And by meet its obligations, we mean things like payroll, utilities, things that the organization has to put money out towards. If the cash budget is more than expected, it can be used for other purposes. They can take it and put it into other areas. However, if the cash budget is less than expected, it must borrow the money to meet the obligations. Capital budget. Capital budget looks at investments made by the company. This can include technology, machines to make a process easier and more efficient, or actual property investments like in buildings and land. These budgets have little effect on future expenditures, but they need to be watched to make sure that the return on the investment is worth the price. If you buy a machine that's supposed to make a process more efficient and therefore save money, and it's not saving money or making the process more efficient, you need to look at that to see if it was worth the investment. And it also helps to determine on whether future investments are warranted. If the machinery is not doing what it's supposed to do, then you probably don't want to put more into the investment by buying more. Okay, so zero-based budget. Basically, this budget starts with $0, and each line item expenditure is then added to the dollar amount. What this does is basically show you what everything costs, and it needs to be an actual documented need. So it documents all the needs and puts it from 0 to whatever that number is, and that is actually what is needed by the corporation. It's not a wish list, it's not anything that they would like to have but not necessarily need. And doing this type of budget can help the organization to look at what's absolutely needed, maybe get rid of what's not absolutely needed, to help them shave off dollars in expenditures so it can save the corporation money. Okay, and then I've listed the references that I've used, and I hope you've enjoyed this slide. Thank you from Georgia.